Alright, let's dive into something that's been making waves, literally and figuratively. The Michigan Supreme Court just dropped a bombshell decision that's got everyone talking about the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline. Here's the deal. The court is basically hitting the pause button on a permit that would have allowed Enbridge to build a tunnel under the Great Lakes for this pipeline. And honestly, this is way more than just a legal battle. It's a clash of priorities, values, and visions for the future. First off, let's set the stage. Line 5 is this 73-year-old pipeline that runs right through the Straits of Mackinac, where Lakes Huron and Michigan meet. Enbridge wants to replace the existing underwater section with a tunnel, buried deep beneath the lakebed. Sounds like a solid plan, right? Well, not everyone's buying it. Environmentalists, indigenous tribes, and even Michigan's governor are saying, hold up, this is a disaster waiting to happen. What makes this really interesting is the court's reasoning. They're not just saying, no tunnel for you. They're pointing out that the regulators didn't do their homework. Like, did they even consider whether this tunnel would just extend the life of an already aging pipeline? Or how it might mess with fishing, boating, and the sacred sites of the Anishinaabe tribes? Personally, I think this is a huge wake-up call. It's not just about the tunnel, it's about whether we're prioritizing short-term energy needs over long-term environmental and cultural preservation. Here's where it gets even more complicated. Enbridge is framing this as an environmental win, saying the tunnel would reduce the risk of an oil spill. And let's be real, an oil spill in the Great Lakes would be catastrophic. But opponents are calling BS, arguing that the construction itself would cause irreversible damage, noise, vibrations, you name it. One thing that immediately stands out is the lack of precedent. This kind of project has never been done before. So, are we really willing to gamble with one of the world's largest freshwater systems? From my perspective, this isn't just a Michigan problem, it's a global question. How do we balance energy reliability with environmental stewardship? Enbridge is talking about critical energy reliability, but what many people don't realize is that Line 5 isn't even essential for Michigan's energy needs. Most of the oil it carries goes to Canada. So, who's this really benefiting? And at what cost? Another detail I find fascinating is the role of indigenous voices in this fight. The Anishinaabe tribes see the Straits of Mackinac as sacred, turning it into a construction site for years. That's not just an environmental issue, it's a cultural and spiritual one. If you take a step back and think about it, this is part of a bigger trend of indigenous communities leading the charge against projects that threaten their lands and waters. Their resistance isn't just local, it's a global call for justice. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, time. This project has been under review for nearly a decade. Enbridge is frustrated by the delays, but honestly, when you're dealing with something as fragile as the Great Lakes, rushing isn't an option. What this really suggests is that we need a more thoughtful, inclusive approach to these decisions. Not just from regulators, but from all of us. So, where do we go from here? The court's ruling doesn't kill the project, but it's a major setback for Enbridge. Personally, I think this is an opportunity to rethink our priorities. Do we keep doubling down on fossil fuel infrastructure, or do we start investing in alternatives? This raises a deeper question. What kind of legacy do we want to leave for future generations? As we wrap this up, I'll leave you with this. The Great Lakes aren't just bodies of water, they're lifelines. They provide drinking water for millions, support ecosystems, and hold cultural significance for indigenous peoples. Messing with them isn't just risky, it's reckless. So, the next time you hear about a project like this, ask yourself, is it worth it? Because in my opinion, some things are too precious to gamble with.